So, hey, Blueprint Partners. I'm Jessie Whittish, as you might know, with Kentucky Youth Advocates. I am here with Mara Powell, who's also with Kentucky Youth Advocates, and our friend Rebecca Hollis from Children, Inc. and Kentucky's Voice for Early Childhood is also on the line as our co-host and co-presenter. So thank you so much to all of you for joining us in this second webinar of this General Assembly. Just a little backstory. This webinar came about after the Blueprint Partner Summit we held in December. We were talking about online advocacy there, but some partners had some really good but basic questions about, just about social media. They were asking for some 101 information. So here we are. We're going to say this frequently throughout the webinar, but we mean it. We know that this is a lot of information, and we are always happy to help answer questions about, just social media in general or advocacy on social media. If you have a good idea, we would love to hear that too. So please feel free to reach out to me or Mara or Rebecca anytime throughout the session and well beyond. It's always good to learn together. So we're happy to help. Also, just to note, we're trying this type of webinar for the first time, so you can ask questions in the chat function. Not everyone will see it, but we as presenters will see it, and we will answer those questions at the end. So please feel free to send your questions through, and we will get to those and ask them for the good of the order, so everyone can hear that. So. Just a little overview of what we're going to talk about today. Mainly we are going to talk about Facebook and Twitter because we know that most nonprofits use these, particularly with the audiences that we tend to target and the audiences that we suspect you will probably be targeting. Other advocacy organizations or other just nonprofits in general also use YouTube and Instagram a little bit more in depth than we do. But we're not going to go into those too much, but again, we could talk about those some other time if we want to share ideas about that. If you use those, may know more than we do. So you can tell us. We would like to know if you have a Facebook or Twitter page, or if you do use other social platforms like Instagram or YouTube or something like that. And if you could send us your Facebook and Twitter handles, and I think you can do that in the chat function. If you could send us your organization's Facebook and Twitter pages, we will send that out in the follow-up email so that all of us on here can follow one another. So just a reminder when you get a chance to do that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mara.
Hey everyone, like Jessie said, my name is Mara and I'm the Communications Director here at KYA. And first things first, I want to go over the purpose and the audience. When you're using social media, you want to think about those things. And you want to think about who you want to reach and who you want to engage. So your purpose could be for a variety of reasons, to engage your followers, to build brand awareness, build awareness around a certain issue, and to motivate folks to take action on an issue, to gain followers, or a combination of all of the above. For Facebook, we've typically used it to build awareness, to inspire and connect, and to storytell, while on Twitter, we're using it more to inform and activate, and all of this with underlying purpose of building our brand awareness and to gain followers. And so we encourage you all to figure out why your organization is using social media or why you would consider using it and how it can benefit you all and your overall goals. And we also encourage you to determine what your audience looks like on the different social media platforms because it often is different groups of people using those platforms. We've noticed through KYA's Facebook page, our audience, and in general we can say is on-the-ground advocates, parents and caregivers, and partner organizations, while on Twitter it's more, we see more media interacting and decision makers like our legislators and the governor and attorney general. All of those decision makers are using social media to communicate with their followers. And we also see organization and advocate peers on there. So knowing your audience can help dictate the type of information you put out on your social pages. So keeping those in mind when you're generating content is very important. So let's get down to the basics on Facebook and Twitter. We're about to cover a lot of information like Jesse said, so please send in your questions as you have them. And right now I'll turn it over to Rebecca, who will be talking first about Twitter.
All right, so for Kentucky's Voice, we use Twitter a lot because it's a more timely and concise platform for us. Posts are in real time, which means that you can keep up with things as they're happening. Facebook is a little bit slower for updates. Twitter is by the second. We like to post around times when we think people are looking at their Twitter feed. So this might be early mornings, around a lunch break, or evenings. We make sure, though, that we're posting constantly throughout the day, whether or not that's retweeting or sharing things that we see are important or creating our own tweets. And we'll also live tweet events that we're at. So if we're at meetings or conferences, live tweeting so other people who are there or who couldn't be there can keep up with what's happening. Some of the basics of Twitter. Twitter allows 140 characters. So that's not 140 words, but actual letters, punctuation, spaces in a message. And if you add a link to a different website, that will usually take up about 25 characters. So make sure you're using every single character wisely, whether that's shortening words or adding less punctuation. Twitter's typically more casual for your messaging, but make sure that you're not shortening your words so much that your readers don't understand what you're trying to communicate. So if it is something that needs to be a longer tweet, what we normally recommend doing is tweeting out 2 or 3 tweets back to back to make sure you're getting that full message. One tip we like to use with Kentucky's Voice is attaching pictures to your tweet. That doesn't take up any extra characters, but what that does is fill the tweet with more space. So it'll take up more space on your followers' feeds, and it'll also make your tweet stand out more. Like we've said before, Twitter has been a little bit of everything. So it'll have peer organizations, influencers, media, legislators. So make sure whatever you are sending out into that sea of tweets, you're aware of who's going to see that. So when you're composing a tweet, there are a couple different ways you can tag your tweet so others will see it. The most important thing to do is make sure that you're tagging someone if you're trying to address them. This is done by using the @ symbol. As you can see, if you're trying to tag Children Inc., you would do @ and Children Inc., which is their account number or their account name. That's considered direct tagging. If that's going to start out your tweet, make sure you put a period before it. That makes it stand out to all of your other followers. If you don't have the period before you tag a user, it will only show up to them and not to all of your followers. Tagging is really important because it will engage your other followers, engage people who you might want to follow, and also help your followers find other accounts that they might be interested in following as well. Another way to tag your conversation is through hashtags. So not only can you tag an account, but you can also create a group tag, which is called a hashtag, using the #. Hashtags are a group conversation that allow followers to track trending topics. So you can use one of these in a search feature. As you can see, there's one in the search bar right now. To look and see who else is tweeting about the things you're tweeting about or that you're interested in learning about. KYA encourages partners to use the hashtag CADKY2017 to track the conversation about the upcoming Children's Advocacy Day event, which if you haven't registered, you should. Another good one to search is KYGA17. That's the hashtag for the 2017 Kentucky General Assembly. We use that a lot with Kentucky's Voice whenever we're tweeting to a legislator about a bill or about anything that we foresee coming up with the legislator, so that we can group all of our tweets with people who are also tweeting about stuff like that. So now that you have your tweet tagged with a hashtag and you've also addressed it to an account, what do you do now? Let's review just the basics of what a Twitter profile page will look like, especially if you're new to Twitter or just starting an account. So when you're on the profile, you find the home button here. This will take you to a newsfeed of what all of your followers are posting, which is where you can engage with them by responding, retweeting, and liking tweets. When your followers engage with you, you'll get notifications here. If your followers send you a private message, it will notify you here, and you're the only person who can see those messages. In terms of engaging followers' posts, you can do that directly on posts. For example, if you'd like to respond to a post, click this button. That's the reply. If you'd like to retweet a post, which means it will share to all of your followers, click here. You can either retweet the post or add in comments by doing what's called quote tweeting. Finally, you can favorite or like a post by clicking this post, the heart button, on Twitter posts. As you can see, Kentucky's Voice for Early Childhood shares partners' contents as a way of engaging. By retweeting, you're keeping on message with your partners and saving yourself the trouble of having to regenerate new content that already exists. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Mara to talk more about Facebook.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. So now we'll talk about the basics of Facebook. There's similarity in the concepts of the two platforms, but there's differences in how readers can take in the posts and the information. Like we said before, Facebook is more of a storytelling platform. The posts can still be real-time, but they show up differently than Twitter. You're more likely to see the same post a few times on Facebook. And so, yeah, on Facebook, you also have more flexibility with post length compared to Twitter, where you only have 140 characters. So you can make it longer, but we do suggest keeping it shorter. If a post is too long, the reader may be discouraged from reading the post in its entirety. And one suggestion is linking to your website, like a blog post, for example, to give more content to readers who want to read it. And the Facebook post then can be a way to draw readers' attention. And by linking to posts on your website, you can also increase your site page views, which is always good. Like we said before, Facebook has more on-the-ground advocates like parents and caregivers engaging on it. So when you're thinking of posts for your organization's page, keep that in mind in terms of content and post timing, like we said before with Twitter. So we found that early mornings and evenings are best for that, and we suggest that you only post once on Facebook per day. And because, like I said before, it can show up multiple times, especially if they're engaged, so you don't want to overwhelm your followers with too many posts. And with tagging partners, it's similar to Facebook, and it's a great way to ensure that they see your posts and that they know that you're talking about them if you're tagging your partners or followers. And you can tag someone using the @ like on Twitter, but once the name comes up like it shows on here, you can click on it and the @ will disappear, so it reads more like a sentence. So here, once we click on the name, it would read Join Kentucky's Voice for Early Childhood, etc. And so one thing to note here is when tagging partners, friends, or whoever, be sure to look at the profile to see what exactly you should use to tag them. Sometimes there's a difference in what you have to type in versus what their name is. So for example, if you're familiar with the Face It movement and child abuse, you have to type in @FaceItAbuse in order to just tag Face It. And I'll show you on the next slide how you can find that out. And if you have further questions about all of this, we can hopefully answer those at the end, so be sure to send them in. So now we can look at Kentucky's Voice for Early Childhood's page and see what it takes to engage with other Facebook pages. So right here is where I was talking about previously about where you can find the name to use to tag a partner in a post. And then right here is where you can like a page, and you will automatically begin following their page, meaning their content will show up on your news feed. But here's where you can manage that. And you can opt to unfollow pages here too without actually unliking their page. And so you can kind of manage that by unfollowing, then their posts won't show up in your news feed as much. You would have to go to their page to actually see what they're posting. And if you want to post directly on someone's wall, you can do that here, and you can just type it in. And then finally, if you want to send a private message, you can do that here. So now let's talk about, let's review engaging on actual posts. So note here that this post is one that we tagged a partner and a news outlet to alert them to our post, which was actually a post we shared off of a partner's page and added our comments. In that way, it's just, generating that same content and keeping on message like we talked about before. So engaging a post can be liking a post, which now you can do in a variety of ways. You can like it, you can love it, you can laugh, haha is what they call it. You can have a wow response, a sad response, or an angry one. So it's just different ways to engage to see how your followers are reacting to your post. You can also make a comment, and using this button, it'll show up in that box below it, and that kind of just generates different, you can create a conversation about the post with followers there. And you can share a post here. You can either share a page's post with your added content, like we did for this post, for example. You can just share the page's post without any comments that you've added, or you can just share the link that was within it. So if we did that, only that WLKY link would be shared. And that only applies if there is a link within it. And finally, one thing I'd like to note here is your ability to boost, which is right here, and I'll go into that next. And you can boost your own page's posts. You can't boost others' posts. So boosting on Facebook can draw viewers to your site, to like your page, and to like and share your content. When you boost a post, you can target an audience, set a budget, and determine a timeline for promotion. And the ROI is visible. As you can see in this image, you can see the reach, the likes, the shares already that have been seen on this post, and it had only been live for a couple of days. And so, there's still time and money left to it to get more folks engaged and clicking onto the link. One thing to note is that you can't have too much text within an image if you're sharing an image with a boosted post. Facebook won't accept an image that has too much text in it. It's something with their algorithm. It doesn't like it. We've found that out the hard way. But text within a post that's outside of the image in the post is fine. And Facebook will alert you when your post is either accepted or denied for boosting. And so we encourage you to play around with that if you haven't done so yet. And we are actually just now experimenting with Twitter ads and post boosting within that. So we can probably answer some minimal questions on that if you have them. And all of this can really be a webinar within itself. So if you have other questions, just send it in that chat button or follow up with us afterwards, and we can do our best to answer your questions. All right, and I'm going to turn it back over to Rebecca.
Great. So one thing that we encourage with social media is making sure that you're sharing a variety of social platforms. So as you can see on your screen, it's an example of KYA's Twitter page and Kentucky's Inc. and Children Inc.'s Facebook page. Make sure that you're attaching photos to draw attention to the post, like I was talking about earlier. As you can see on your Twitter feed, the posts with pictures take up more space and are more visible. Make sure you're sharing relevant news articles. This is really helpful if you're following others who also share news articles, so you don't have to find them all on your own. You can just share them. Share short videos relevant to your issue and organization, so that might be YouTube videos or news links, including graphics or infographics that explain data trends is helpful to your followers. Twitter has the capability to use polls, so you can poll your audience to see on Twitter what your followers are thinking about a certain issue, and then share events like CAD or any other legislative issue or event or any events that your organization might sponsor. Get creative and always have your audience and purpose in mind. People follow you for a reason, and they want you to tweet things that they want to see and that align with your organization's mission and vision as well.
All right, and we're going to go over some social media and advocacy tips and tools that we have put together. And as advocates, social media is a great low-cost way to connect and engage with people of all different backgrounds. and it's an ongoing conversation. So you really will get out of it what you put into it. And so we put together some tips and tools that we suggest for advocates to keep in mind as they're exploring the different platforms. So first, like we've talked about, use hashtags specifically to follow the legislative session and to follow along with blueprint items. Be sure to be using that so we can see how blueprint priorities are moving throughout the General Assembly. And we also suggest the CAD one, of course, if you're joining us next Thursday. And tag organizations and decision makers when appropriate, and that could include when action is needed or just to say, hey, thanks for voting yes on this bill. And we often hear, you know, legislators are asked to vote a certain way on bills, but then there's not always that follow-up of like, hey, thanks for doing that. So we strongly encourage folks to do that, and we try to send out action alerts to remind people to do it. But it's always a good thing to remember to actually tag them too, so they know that you're a follower and you're watching what they're doing. And be sure to engage with partners, advocates, and others on social media, and they're more likely to engage back if you do that. So, you know, retweeting, liking posts, sharing posts, and when your partners are in the media, sharing what's going on with them, sharing events, and all kinds of things like that. It's really, like we said, it's an ongoing conversation, so we want to make sure everybody is a part of it. And like we've been talking about, Rebecca mentioned, include images within posts to draw attention to your content. And there are helpful free online tools like Canva and Pictochart to create images. And you can use those tools to either put quotes in there, use it to just, you know, say Merry Christmas like we did this year, or whatever it is. You can create just fun things that people are more likely to engage on. And because they'll stand out more on the news feed. And be sure to share relevant data and graphics or maps and to back up whatever point you're trying to make in your post. And if you don't know about it already, check out the Kids Count Data Center, which you can get to from the KYA website. And we actually have a webinar planned on how to use the data center the week after CAD on February 16th at 2 p.m. So mark your calendars, and we'll include that in the follow-up email. So you guys have that information if you are interested. And one other thing we like to do is to give advocates and partners social media content that they can easily share about a campaign or event. And that keeps everyone on message, and it makes it easier for other folks to participate and engage in whatever you're trying to promote. Also, when possible, schedule posts out in advance. It's good to be real time, but planning ahead is always helpful for your sanity or for whatever. So you can do scheduling through Facebook. They make it pretty easy for you. And there are also tools available that can make it easy to schedule Twitter posts, and that includes Sprout Social and Hootsuite if you've seen those before. And with those tools, you can also track and analyze posts and your profile successes. Those successes could be something like increases in engagement or within posts, or page likes and follows, increasing those. So tracking your progress on social media platforms is helpful when determining budgets for that, communication strategies, and figuring out what works for your audience, what doesn't, what kind of content are they interested in, and that kind of thing. So being able to look back and have the data on what's working or what's not is really helpful in determining how you go forward. All right, and we could go on a whole other session on all the tools available for improving your social media game. And so if anyone would be interested in something like that, like a social media 201, please let us know, and we could see about making that happen or doing a small kind of toolkit or whatever it may be. And one last note that I'd like to add here is that the ROI may not seem immediate on your social media pages, but it's important to try it out and see what works best for your organization and your audience. It's the way communications are going, so you either got to be in it or you'll be left out. So if anyone has any questions, we've had a couple sent in. We'd like to open it up for folks now. Yeah, let's see.
So we've had one question from Melissa from Sunrise was asking about Twitter ads, which is a really good question. So to create an ad on Twitter, you can go to ads.twitter.com. And we've been using Twitter ads for what, like 2 days? So this is different. In part, I think because of the audience that it reaches, for us. So it's different than Facebook ads. So we've been using it for 2 days, but it has gotten like generated clicks, our ads have. So we feel like they're working-ish. So
and once you go to the website, if you're logged into your page's Twitter account, it will automatically link to it, and it gives you suggestions of like what to do. Like for an ad, it's suggested having 4 to 6 tweets connected to it, and it gives you instructions as you're going through it. We figured it out. It took a little bit of brain power, but we figured it out. So if you're looking, as you're trying to do that, Melissa, if you're interested, we can try to help you out a little bit.
Yeah, that's Melissa said that we're comfortable with Facebook ads. Haven't tried Twitter. We're in that same boat. That we felt really good about Facebook ads, and then we're like, wow, this is different. So, but it's been,
Rebecca, have you all used Twitter ads?
We haven't. So I can't be much either. Sorry.
That's all right.
It's okay. We can all learn together. So that's no problem with that. Any other questions, or anyone that hasn't given us their Facebook or Twitter, please feel free to do that as well. Thanks to those of you who have put that through on chat. Okay. Okay, so somebody asked, seems like this takes a lot of time. If you have limited time, what is the best to use? That is a great question, and I think that would depend on who you're targeting. Do you want to answer this, or do you want me to keep going? Okay, so, and Rebecca, jump in here as well. So if you know that who you are really trying to target with your social media is, for example, legislators, I would spend time learning how to use Twitter. If who you're really trying to engage are parents or
mobilizing advocates
who are also kind of lay people, if you will, I would not bother opening a Twitter account. I would focus your energy on Facebook and trying to have like one Facebook post a day, something like that. And you can kind of think about where to start too. So at first it might just be what we're trying to do is just build more followers. And we can put anything out there as long as we're trying to build those followers. So it can just be links to our website, stuff like that, and then try to get a little bit more, you can work more at sharing others' posts or something like that. But I would say figure out who you're trying to reach and whether they're more of a Facebook audience or a Twitter audience. And if you're wondering which is the case, you can holler and we can provide some suggestions and really focus on that. You don't have to try and do everything all at once by any means.
And I would add the way that Kentucky's Voice built a lot of our social media followers is just starting by following any and everyone who fits either the people you're trying to reach or what you're trying to learn more about, and then start liking and sharing their information. It's an easy way if you don't have time to build your own message to start out with to use other people's who might be on message with what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah, exactly. And the more folks that you follow, they will then follow you. You'll be able to follow the people that are on the webinar today, and then they'll follow you back, I'm sure. because they'll get an alert about that as well. So, yeah, great question. Any other questions? Somebody else sent in their Twitter handle. Thank you. Okay. I guess we're going to wrap up here, just to kind of, no need to sit here in silence, I guess. But if you have any other questions, of course, as we said many times, please feel free to reach out to us. So just a few last-minute things. If you haven't already, follow Kentucky Youth Advocates and Children, Inc. and Kentucky's Voice for Early Childhood on social media, and we'll send out the info for those of you that sent it in. We will send it out to everyone on the webinar. If you haven't yet registered for Children's Advocacy Day, please do so, although I'm sure that you have if you're on this webinar, but just in case. All the information is on our website and along with all of our social media stuff. And then we're going to have another webinar in 2 weeks. Mara mentioned this. It's the Thursday after Children's Advocacy Day, February 16th. And that webinar is going to be about the Kids Count Data Center, where there's over 100 indicators about data and all relating to kids and families at the county level, school district level. It's really great, and you can make visualizations in that. So if you're like, we want to talk about kids who are on free and reduced school lunch in our county, you can make a visualization with that and share it on social media. So it just leads right on from this. So I guess that's
yeah. And we had another question that came in. So folks who would like to stay on to listen to that, we can answer that right now. So we had a follow-up question saying, following others is okay. Seems like building a social media presence is evolutionary. So they're basically asking which is first, second, and then how do we manage them all effectively? I think that's what we're all trying to kind of figure out, because it does take time. That's basically why I have a full-time job. Yeah. So, but I would say, if you're just starting out on social media, following all of those accounts, and you can make lists and look at, make a list of whose feeds you would like to check regularly to see what they're putting out and sharing their stuff, whether that's news articles or if they have new data, new research, whatever it is. You can kind of build on that.
Yeah, I think that how do you manage them all effectively? That's the challenge, and why, in my opinion, you don't want to overreach. You don't want to have a platform that you're not using, that you're just silent on. Mm-hmm. And it does take a commitment of capacity. You don't have to have a full-time person that does it, but you need to be able to say, like, okay, I'm going to spend X amount of time each day, either coming up with content or just looking at partner organizations' content and sharing that, or just seeing what they're up to. And there's kind of different ways to do that, whether that's, literally every morning, first thing in the morning, go in and see what's happened since yesterday, schedule a Facebook post or post something on Facebook, and then return to it the next day. Or, if you have someone who does communication, or you have someone whose time you're trying to fill, which I'm sure is not the case for anyone, you can, this can be a real area of growth for someone who's wanting to learn more about communications. But yeah, I would say start small, and starting small is really okay. That, you can give kind of minimal commitment and still have a presence, without feeling like suddenly a large chunk of your business and activity needs to become online instead of what you're doing now. So it's more about building presence than it is about shifting everything you do in some cases. So, and that's totally fine.
And though we suggest a post a day on Facebook, if your audience isn't responding that often, start smaller, like we're saying, just a couple posts a week. so that when you do post things, that there is engagement and people are kind of waiting for you to, to see what you're going to say next, kind of thing. So just kind of gauge how your audience is responding, and then you respond back that way.
And a follow-up question that you would have, different types of Facebook pages. So the way that we do that, like staff have personal Facebook pages, and then we have the Facebook page for Kentucky Youth Advocates, which is different. So as an organization, you actually have an organization page. It's a specific type of page. You cannot be a person, if you will, and be an organization. Facebook doesn't like that, and they can shut you down. So any organization has to be a page. It's like a thing in Facebook. It's called a page or something like that. But then you as a person are an administrator on that page. So you have to have a Facebook account, but no one who follows your organization's page knows who the administrators on the page are. No one who follows the Kentucky Youth Advocates page knows that Mara and I are the administrators on it. They never see us doing anything. Yeah, these are great questions. Any other questions that folks have? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question is about how are inappropriate posts handled. So an important thing to know is that you can hide posts.
And comments.
Yeah, and comments. What we run into from time to time is that we will post something and then people will jump on there and start insulting elected officials that they disagree with or something like that. And so you can hide those comments or, respond if you feel you should respond. But there is an option to hide comments, to hide posts. If something is really inappropriate that keeps showing up on your page or something that you're not posting, you can report those.
And you can also block them.
Yeah. So if someone keeps, saying bad things on your page, yeah, you can block them and prevent them from doing that again. We try to not, if folks just disagree with us, we try to have social media is a place for dialogue. But if people are swearing or just being really insulting without being productive, we may hide the comments so that other people can't see them. It's a great question.
And it does happen.
It does happen, yeah, and I suspect that a lot of you on this call have some reason that you have either experienced that or may run into that. Any other questions? These are great. Okay, good question. Do you set up criteria ahead of time to ensure it stays social versus kind of political, vitriolic? We do not. There's not really a way to regulate how people comment on your post. So there's not like a only nice people can comment filter. So, I mean, you can, one thing we do is we try to be really positive in our posts. Instead of, calling out elected officials as doing bad things, we will praise elected officials who do good things. So it's just a little more, it starts the conversation positive as opposed to adversarial. Any other questions? Or okay, I think we're going to wrap up. Like we said, if you have any other, if you think of anything or if you have a genius idea that we didn't mention on this webinar and you were like, our organization does this and we think everyone should know, please tell us because we would love to know that too. So So yeah, thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you, I'm sure, in a week at Children's Advocacy Day, where you will all be tweeting with the hashtags, I'm sure. And then hopefully we'll see you again in 2 weeks at the Kids Count webinar, and you can come up with all kinds of fancy images for your social media after that.